Blades fans, subscribe to Blades Ramble. Up the Blades.
What is happening, Blades? And welcome back to the Blades Ramble. It's good to be back. It feels like ages since I've been on. So thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for the increase in subscriptions. Thank you to our sponsors as ever. John, Action Coach Sheffield. Without him, we would not be growing at the rate that we are. And I thank him for all his advice and support. Thank you also to VMB Auto Centres based at Handsworth. They are a huge supporter of the channel also. Thank you, Aaron, for your support, pal. And if you quote the word ramble when you book in with them, you may get a 10%, or you will get a 10% discount. No me about it. Obviously, I know why we're here. We're going to get straight into it. But I need to say a massive, massive thank you. And I know I don't use that word a lot, but I'm using it in this context. Yesterday, we surpassed the equivalent of over 100 paid Patreons to the Ramble, and that is absolutely unbelievable. I cannot thank everybody enough for their support. So that's everybody that's either a Rambler or the majority of those, like 3/4 of those, are Platinum Ramblers. Some have upgraded on YouTube as well to go to the higher tier on YouTube. So thank you to everybody that shows support to the channel, whether it's through Patreon, and I hope you feel like you get value for money. I do my best to try and provide that, or whether it's via subscribing. Your support is absolutely incredible, and that is why we are the fastest growing Sheffield United channel on YouTube, and soon to be on other platforms. Now, I've heard what people have been asking for, and I know the thing you quickly learn on YouTube or any sort of form of media like this is you're never going to, which takes me on a bit of a tangent, but you're never going to please everybody with whatever style or whatever sort of category or whatever it is. You're never going to please everybody. But I'd had some comments that people liked shorter videos. Some also said, I much prefer longer videos because I can listen in car and stuff like that and what have you. People are asking for it on audio platforms. So I'm putting it on record now, so I've got to do it. Following this live, we're going to try and see if it's not too labour intensive. And if it is, then there might be a plea going out to some of you to try and support us with some editing or something like that. But what I'm going to try and do is after every live, which is an extended chat, obviously, we're going to get up into all things United because I've been away for the last few days. But it's a long chat where you can come on and we are the most interactive fan channel doing this stuff, and I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of the community that we built. But some people, it's a bit long, and I understand that, and they try and sift through it to get to bits of information and things. So what I'm also going to do is going to once it's finished this, I'm going to chop it down into maybe a 20-minute highlight package, and we want to be able to provide content that people are wanting as well. So what is going on at Sheffield United? What is happening? What is happening, Blades? What is happening at the Blades? So first thing to discuss is when we last got together, I think we were at the point where Bogle was about to move to Leeds. And I'd heard conflicting information about Jayden Bogle. I'd heard from one source, a very strong source, that said there's no way he's going to sign a new contract. He wants to go to Leeds. I'd heard from another source, or another couple of sources, to be honest. And I'm in that field now. Check me out, getting sources. But I am trying to speak to other people, and I always want a rounded view of what's going on. I'm conscious that I only really get one side of things. And I'm not daft. I try and sift through it as best I can, but I appreciate that information being provided. So I do try and get a rounded view of what's going on. And I was told conflicting information that actually Bogle wanted to stay and we weren't offering him an appropriate deal. What is an appropriate deal? What is, if we'd have turned around and offered him 35 grand a week, I'm sure he'd have stayed. But does that mean he wants to stay? Well, so I came on here, and if memory serves me right, I was saying, look, I know we're all under impression that, let me just turn this off a minute because it's doing my head in. So I know we're all under impression that he wants to leave and he's asked to leave and he's not going to sign a new deal. So a lot of people are happy with digging him out a little bit and saying, get him gone. Well, after hearing that he might not want to go and it might just be a case of we're lowballing him, then I can understand why some people are being unhappy with that. So we were sort of saying, we don't know what's gone on. Consider all options. Anyway, cut through all that because Wilder came out post-match. We're at the Chelsea game when he didn't play and said, yeah, basically, it looks like he's played his last game. He made it clear to me that he wanted to leave for Leeds. Well, if he's going to do that, and I believe that Leeds offered more money, but that don't mean we offered him an unreasonable deal. So Jayden Bogle has gone, and there's a picture of him knocking about already, which I tried to get in time for stream, but we've been in a rush getting back because Mrs. Ramble wanted to go to York Designer Outlet on way back, didn't she? Of course she did. So, so we were there. I was cutting it too fine, so that's why I'm running sweating. But so yeah, Bogle's gone to Leeds, and for the money we got, which I've heard different prices being touted around, we will more than likely get up to 7 million for Jayden Bogle, and that is for a kid in last year of his contract. It's still cheap. I still think he's probably a £10 million right wing back, well in contract. They've got themselves like a £10 million player there, 10 to 12. But that's good business for us. My fear now is we drop off a little bit in that. Well, we drop off massively in that position. I think Jamie Shackleton looks all right. And I know that's one reason why Shaq were brought in as cover in case this happened, because we knew that Bogle were sort of talking to other, offering himself about a bit, if you like, being a bit of a floozy. Sam Curtis has looked okay. I don't mind the look of him, but I'm conscious that he's 18-year-old and he's potentially going to be thrown to Wolves a little bit. Sariki's looked all right in pre-season, but didn't really do it at Rochdale in a 4 in competitive football. And let's all hope he's come on since then, but I don't want to be relying on these players, and I don't think it's fair necessarily to when it's not Jamie Shackleton's primary position and other kids are very young with no support. So I think we need somebody like an Alfie Gilchrist coming in, which we've been rumoured to be interested in. I believe the rumours have got legs. Previously, it were touted that Alfie Gilchrist was weighing up his options between us and Preston. And normally, you'd hope that we would be in the driving seat for that. And I think we probably will be, especially now that we've moved to a flat 4. Does he want to play as a right back? I suppose that's a question for him, isn't it? Because I think he's a centre back by trade. He'd have fitted better, I think, as a right centre back in a 3. But I've got a couple of things to touch on with that. In fact, let's do that now. So people were stressing a little bit. The big overarching thing that we're going to talk about today, and probably when we get into all your comments, is people are panicking because things aren't happening quick enough. I think the quotes going around are 17 players have left and only 4 have come in. I understand that, and this is the biggest season. Wilder's dubbed it that. I still think we're well short of a squad that, in terms of competing. However, I do think if we were to get Burrows in, which we'll come to, if we were to get a goalkeeper in, which we'll come to, and Alfie Gilchrist, I think we've got a great starting lineup. That's not good enough for being done. That's not, we can't just have a strong first 11, which we'll come to, as I say. But so Gilchrist, I think, should be on the list, is on the list, and I would like to think we're in a strong chance of getting Alfie Gilchrist. Oli McBurnie. Let's talk about Oli Mac, the big Marmite ex-Sheffield United player. So I have to put my hands up here because, appreciate another Twitter account massively superseded us in terms of putting their foot in it. And please don't be too hard on people that are trying to grow a brand and sometimes take a misstep, because we've all done it and we've all been there. But I also took a misstep in terms of getting caught up in the hype. Oli McBurnie had agreed to stay at Sheffield United. That is pretty well known, I think. We had offered him a deal that was very good for the club. And I think it was probably a little bit cheeky compared to what McBurnie's been on. And he'd verbally agreed, as far as I'm aware. And we were laughing. I'm not obviously going to go into numbers. I don't think it's fair. And I don't know for sure whether the numbers I've been given are accurate. Because, I won't be talking about where they've come from either, because I don't think it's right. And I think it's a little bit off-putting to talk about that sort of stuff. But Las Palmas came in, if that's how you say the name, a team based in Gran Canaria in La Liga, offered him a 3-year contract on almost double what we'd offered him. Nobody blames him. Nobody blames him. In fact, there were a touch of, from what I understand, is he were desperate to stay, and he came to us and he said, "Just offer me X more, and I'll have a serious think about it. I'll have to speak to my missus, because the X more was still going to be considerably less than what Las Palmas were offering. He's just got a new kid, a newborn, and he's obviously trying to settle down with his girlfriend. So we agreed to match what he'd asked for. Still wasn't anywhere near the Las Palmas offer, to be fair, and nor should it be, because Oli McBurnie, you're essentially paying him double because he only plays half at games. So the thing that Prince Abdullah first said on the Ramble, and it's resonated with a lot of fans since, and so it should, and I hear that it's resonated with a lot of people at the club as well. The best ability is availability. And that's so true. So true. So for somebody, essentially, we're more of an appearance-based deal with us. And if he backed himself to stay fit, then he could have got a very, very good wage. But if he wasn't playing, then it was going to suit Sheffield United. And I think that's the deal that we had to offer him. Because if you get what he signed for, it's what is he worth to us now. And we planned on him signing that, and we planned on him staying. So we are now going to have to get a new striker in. But he goes because he'd slept on it after we'd given him the improved offer, and he couldn't turn down the Spanish opportunity. And who blames him, really? No one blames him. Despite what you think of Oli McBurnie, he is somebody that leaves his mark on a football club, isn't it? And we won't forget him. We thank him for everything he's done. And yeah, so Oli McBurnie moves on with our best wishes. What else? Who else? Harrison Burrows. We'll get into that in the comments, I'm sure, because some people are going to ask about it. So I'll talk about Harrison Burrows as and when it comes up, because I'm sure that's going to be one of the first few questions. The other thing is, Darren Smith mentioned in his Twitter feed that we have had conversations about Michael Cooper, the Plymouth keeper, which is very exciting, particularly for somebody who's been absolutely banging that drum ever since we've been going as a channel, because I'm a huge fan of his. And it's not I got there first, because people knew about him before me, but I was the first person. You heard it on YouTube, I'll tell you that for notes. Yeah. So anyway, that's by the by, but what a player. And if we can get him done and Harrison Burrows done, that's those two positions sewn up for the next 5 years, potentially, maybe even longer. So what is going on? Why are these deals stalling? Why are they not getting through? What positions do we need to strengthen now? So, as I said, I've got a little bit of something that I put together because it surprised me, actually. So we were linked with Lewis O'Brien, and it looked like we were linked with Lewis O'Brien a couple of days ago, like we always seem to be every window. Me and my dad are big fans of Lewis O'Brien, think he'd fit in really well. I'd be amazed if we'd have signed him, and Dave Leary made this point in our Platinum chat, and I'd be amazed if we'd have signed him before. I'm just going to double check that we're not missing any news here, actually. Oh, I hope. Miguel Freckleton, we'll come to him, but he's just joined Swindon on loan. Brilliant. Okay. So Dave Leary made the point that while ever Vinny Suze is here, I don't think we're going to sign a starting centre midfielder, because we are packed in that position. And let me show you why I think we're okay there, but not quite as stacked as many people think. So this is the team that I've sort of pulled together, and it's a little bit deeper than we think. But you look at some of the names, and you wouldn't be keen on them being first team backups, would you? First of all, you look at right centre back. We certainly need some backup there for me, particularly if Nell's going to go, which we don't know if he's going to go, but I think we need some backup there. You think about our midfield, and we've got the likes of Andre Brooks, who I've put on the right-hand side here underneath Brewster. I know you can't see my mouse, but I'm just going to leave this on for a little bit so people can soak it up a bit. Blaster and Vinny are going to play in the 2. I'm almost convinced of it because we've paid so much money for Vinny. We're either going to sell him or we're going to play him. We're not going to bench him. We're going to try and make him play him back into either form or into the market. So Vinny's going to start. You can't drop Oli Blaster, nor would you. I think this team looks decent, to be honest. The 11. If you look at the 11 starters in bold, Brewster on the right. You could also play Andre Brooks there, who's played well when he's played that role. Asula coming off the left. You play Hamer in front of him, wouldn't you? And you probably play a little bit skinnier than I've got here. In terms, they wouldn't be as wide. Maybe we want wingers. Maybe, and I'll come on to that in terms of getting a supply into Big Kiefer Moore. We'd planned on Oli McBurnie being a backup to Kiefer Moore or an alternative to going 2 up top. But Ryan O'Neill and Hackford leaves slim pickings, doesn't it? So if we were to get a winger in, then maybe Brewster joins him in a 2. Maybe Asula joins him in a 2. So there's options there. But if you look at our midfield, it's not as deep as you may think. So say Vinny goes, for example, we definitely need somebody in there. You could slot Andre Brooks in there. You could slot Gus Hamer in there, where Vinny is currently. But people are thinking that we are flush with strength at centre-half because, Hare's here, we've got Gus Hamer, but ideally you play Gus Hamer further forward. I'm not saying he has to play out on the left, but you look at that team and, well, let me know what you think anyway. It also offers the option to do this, like we've just talked about. And again, not that deep in centre midfield. You could put Andre Brooks underneath Vinny in the 2. Hamer don't have to be out there. You could put Brewster out there and Asula, and Hamer moves back into Vinny's position, but he's deeper than you'd like him to be, isn't he, really, there? What about this? And I'm conscious on this one, I forgot to include Gus Hamer. So Gus Hamer will be, obviously, I mean, where do you play him? Where do you play Gus Hamer in that formation? Because he certainly gets in, and everybody's going to be shouting and screaming, you drop Vinny, but as a business, do you drop Vinny? You certainly don't drop Blaster. I don't know if we can play like that because of the players we've got. So I think going back to the original, what we have been playing in pre-season, I think that's probably our strongest 11. But I think what we'll look to go for is something like this. So we'll go for a loan at left wing, a starting loan, and a starting loan on the right wing, and have Brewster as our backup striker. I'd like to think we'll also go in for another striker and maybe send Ryan O'Neill out on loan. Maybe another 10 looking at this, but I think Hamer can play in the 10. So it would support another central midfielder coming in. I've got Freckleton on all these lists, obviously, underneath Trusty and Robbo. But as I said, he's just gone out to Swindon Town on loan for the season. So he'll be playing League 2 football next season after signing another. They are in League 2, aren't they? I think after signing a 2-year deal with Blades. That's my opening monologue after not speaking to you guys for almost a week on here. Obviously, I've been active, massively active in our groups. Thank you again to our Ramblers that are supporting the channel that way. Apologies if I don't get back to everybody as quickly as I can on other forms of social media. I've been away with family and I haven't been off my phone. In fact, I've had some daggers from the missus about it. So people message me on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. I'm not really on Instagram and Facebook, or only in profile alone, really. So please don't feel like I'm ignoring you. But my main focus is obviously prepping Ramble and getting up to date and keeping people informed on Ramblers group with whatever I know, whatever I can share that's not going to harm the club. Got some rate stick on S2 forum as well. That's what I'm going to talk about if I'd have got another tangent to go off, but we'll jump into that as and when if need be. Scott starts us off. Hey up, Jimmy. I sincerely hope by the time you read this, we've finally announced Burrows. Hopefully another one too. Up the Blades, up the Ramble, like and subscribe. So Scott put that in at 3:10. Nothing is there. There's no. The only out-of-contract players who stayed was Adam Davis. Not acceptable. We're going to a season underprepared again after the shambles of last year. Get a move on, Blades. We do need to get a move on. I've heard some people, quite rightly, and look, people have different opinions on this. People saying we don't. I got some stick on the forum for saying this. We're not necessarily all, me included, entitled to know every step of the way, every single element of every transfer. So we don't need to know, what Harrison Burrows is having for breakfast and, where he is on M1, all this sort of stuff. Yeah, back in the day, I think a couple of lads mentioned in chat that it used to be just Greenan would tell us as and when they'd signed, wouldn't it? We are a bit entitled, as I think every fan base is, to be fair. The rumours have been confirmed by Darren McAntony in terms of, look, Posh have done everything they need to do with regards to transfer. We accepted a bid from Sheffield United. The players agreed terms. It's just for Sheffield United to get it signed off, which essentially means pay the money, I think. And speculation is now is that why it's being held up? Because Prince Abdullah and the current ownership are not willing to fund the transfer, or is it being used as leverage in the takeover talks? Again, we don't know. That's speculative. But it's things like this when there's no communication from the club. Opinions like that are going to form, aren't they? So just a tricky time. And the only thing you've got to hope is it doesn't scupper our transfer business, because we are late. We are sort of slowing to, not to the point where I fear for our season. I still think, as I've said, our first 11, I think, particularly if we get those 3 deals done, is really strong. But if we're going to give the full season a real good go, the manager needs back in with 6 or 7 signings. And we can do that on loan, and you'd expect loan players to become available towards the end of the window. Alfie Gilchrist has only just been made available. There's other players that we can look at to bring in that'll be made available later in the window, but we've got to start moving, haven't we? Also, please can we collectively put a ban on cryptic tweets on Twitter Blades after the McBurnie fiasco? I don't know if you're digging me out there, Bean, but that'd be fair if you were. I put a return of the Mac 20-minute tune on Twitter because it agreed. It were all done. Lesson learned. Until it's done, it's not done. Thank you, Stu. Evening, Jimmy says, Dave, the nose. Looking forward to tomorrow and counting the days till the Preston game. We've still 2 weeks. I'm sure Burrows and a keeper will be sorted by then. Loving Alan Wilder has set his stall out for this coming season. Fancying us to come out of the blocks. Oh, my blooming new mouse. Fancy us to come out of the blocks strong. Keep the faith, guys. We've got a good squad and some strong youngsters. We'll be fine. Up the Blades. Up the Ramble. Like and subscribe from Top Rambler, Platinum Rambler, Dave Leary, part of the 3 Mardy Blades. A Patreon exclusive for those that are interested in signing up. Exactly, Mr. Leary, says Stu. My thoughts too. Evening, Jimmy. I think Wilder has stated he wants to work with a smaller squad, so I'm not too concerned that we haven't brought in as many as have gone out. It's all about quality. Up the Blades, up the Ramble, like and subscribe. I completely agree. And you look at some of those on the team that I pulled up. I've listed Brooks as a right winger because that's where he's been playing pre-season, but we know he can play in central midfield. He's even played at left wing back before. We know that Shackleton can play centre midfield or right back. There's loads of players. Nell can, in fact, let me lay this one on you. So Anel, we know, can play right centre back, middle of the 3. Can probably play a left centre back as well, but we're strongish in that position, if you like. How about this? Andy the Blade said, and this is why I rate my dad's sort of, I bow down to my dad's knowledge of the game, and this is just an opinion, and you may agree or you may not. He said to me, you shave an L, well, he didn't quite put it this way, but if an L were a foot shorter, he's one of the best fullbacks going today. Because every attribute that Anel Ahmedhodzic has is a superb fullback. But because of his height, he's labelled as a strong centre-back because obviously it gives you the aerial advantage and he's okay in the air and stuff. But my dad was saying, if you bring in a Joe Worrell or somebody like that, for example, why not move Anel to right back? Do we not think Anel could do a job there? Because I certainly think Anel would do a great job. And I'd never thought of it. And as soon as he said it, I was like, you know, because if he were a foot shorter, you play him as a right back and he'd be immense for me. So it's just his height that means he gets shifted to be a centre back. Why aren't we playing him as a right back? Fair play, Dad. Andy the Blade. Good evening, Jimmy, and congratulations on reaching your 100 Patreon target in record time. Thank you, Mr. V, one of our Platinum Ramblers who has helped us get there. Just wondering if we had any interest in Gerbich or Anel and Souza up the Blades, up the Ramble. I believe there's a couple sniffing around Gerbich, believe it or not. Say it in quiet corners. Nothing for Anel or Souza. I know that it was touted a week or so ago that we'd rejected a bid from Fulham. No bids. I know that it was touted that Wolves were interested in Anel. No bids. So nothing. Just paper talk at the minute. But Gerbich, 1 or 2 interested, but no bids on any of them at the minute. Heard any more on Raksaki, says Scott. Seen Saints were possibly in for him, and that's why we maybe turned his attention to Bowler. I rate Bowler, to be fair, and I'd be happy with that. Keep up the top work, pal. Thank you, mate. Another one of our Ramblers. But Raksaki, he's got Premier League interest at Southampton. I'm hearing positive noises about Raksaki in terms of it's almost done. It hasn't been done. It's been almost done for 10 days or so, a week, 10 days. I personally don't think it's happening. Southampton are interested and trying to get a buy option, I think, at the end of the deal with Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace, like I can only assume, don't want to sell to a Premier League rival, but would prefer to loan out to the Championship, which would be us. We saw Bournemouth do that. I think it were Jayden Anthony to Leeds when we were sniffing off something like that last season. Anyway, they don't want to strengthen a Premier League rival who are probably going to be in the mire with them a little bit, although I think Palace will go well. So if the player digs his heels in and wants to go, and I think from what I understand, he wants to stay south. So I don't think it's much of a goer in terms of Raksaki coming. I might be proven wrong, and I hope I am because he comes with a big reputation. Josh Bowler, I was a fan of him at Blackpool. I don't think he's done anything since. I don't think he's done alt. Look, he's a good ball carrier, and it's probably something that we've maybe got 1 or 2 now in Gus and O'Hare. Maybe even Arblaster, you could say, is a decent ball carrier because he can do a little bit of everything. Can only Arblaster, what a player he is. But Bowler, I'm not convinced about Josh Bowler. I'm not convinced, but I wouldn't be upset with it. But I'm not convinced is the answer. I think there's better options out there. Going to be a big few years under the new owners. From what I've heard is if what I've heard is true, says Joe. Willing to invest, big ambitions. The moves we're making, it only feels like the start. Onwards and upwards, up the Blades, up the Ramble. Like and subscribe. I don't know your sources, Joe, but everybody seems to be quite positive about the potential new owners, and that's a good thing. I'm certainly not wanting to pour cold water on that. The only thing I'll say is it's an unknown quantity, isn't it? We don't know what they're going to be like. All signs point towards them having more money, which is brilliant. We need more money to push on as a club. But I just look, I mean, the one glaring sign is with owners that you don't know what they're going to be like is across the city with the tuna man. But you look at like the one that's comparative, I suppose, is Burnley. Alan Pace, who were in for United at one stage at Burnley, I've seen that some of the home tickets this season are going to be 55 quid. The pricing fans out at game. So whilst I am all on board for new ownership, if it means investment in the club, backing for current manager, absolutely. Let's take this club to the next level. Let's get back to the Premier League, which is job number 1. It might be this season, it might be next. Just let's stay strong and try our best to get back there. That's a huge task in itself. But once we reach the Premier League, if we're that lucky, let's have a real go at staying there. And look, we don't want to be the next Crystal Palace. I use them as an example that hopefully they'll kick on and start to do something now, rather than be that perennial number 10 every year. But, you know, it's never boring being a Blade. I don't want it to be, and I don't want it to be too expensive being a Blade either. So I'm just a little bit cautious. It's been good to be back. I'm still positive about where we are. I might not be if this carries on much longer, though. So we do need to get a wriggle on. There's no doubt about it. Hopefully, there's some takeover news to come, and surely there's some signing news to come shortly because we need to get them bodies in. But for now, come on, you red and white wizards. Up the